The question is, which Python version should I pick for my project? Oh man. This is a really, really difficult question. Even though like most of you, I don't know, how many of you guys have worked in Python 3 and are actively developing in Python 3? Can you raise your hands? Okay. So how many of you that have been developing in Python 3 have you're developing it on a core product that's actually gaining revenue? And you're not gaining that much revenue. Yeah? All right. It's like 2. Okay, that's a really big issue with Python 3. So the answer is it depends. It depends really on what your project is going to be. Because like, for example, my project, I'm working on a, can you please, yeah, thanks. I'm working on it's a really monolithic, awesomely big project that was in development for like the last 5 years maybe. And it started in Python 2, obviously, but it kind of got dragged around, got enhanced with a lot of libraries. And a lot of those libraries, like currently in my project that I'm working on right now, like a lot of libraries they're completely deprecated. They're barely even working in 2. So it's really hard work to make them work on 3. So I'm going to share like a real story of what happened to a friend of mine a year and a half, or 2 years ago. They were working on a new project. So they got a project from a client. And like, I'm telling you this because it's like the reason that's going to make you decide whether you're going to do 2 or 3. So they got a project, and it's going to be like, the client said like, oh, okay, you're just going to target some API calls, do some aggregation on some data, I don't know, do some NoSQL databases, whatever, like merge some data and then just throw it out on an API. It's going to be an easy project. So like, okay, that's fine. Python 3 is good for that. I'm going to use that probably. That's fine. So they decided to do in Python 3. It was a Django project. So it all went awesome for the first 3 months until the client said, yeah, okay, but we need one more integration. And that integration is going to be from these guys. So they contacted those guys. How are we going to get the content that we're going to display through the API or include into the aggregation searches or whatever? And they said like, okay, we have a MySQL database, and you're going to have to take all the information from that MySQL database. Here you go, here's the connector, and just like mix the data in. And they're like, okay, pip install MySQL Python. Damn, that doesn't work on Python 3. 2 years ago, that was a huge issue. Now, they developed, I think, something. Python 3 started working MySQL. It's displayed on the Python wall of superpowers as one of the libraries that's not supported, even though there are forks of it that actually do work on Python 3. So nowadays, it's not an issue. 2 years ago, it was a complete disaster. This is a list of all the modules currently listed in the Python wall of shame. Now it's superpowers that are not supported by 3. Most of these are junk. Like most of these are you don't really need. Like you don't need Fabric, you don't need Carbon, I don't even know what that is. OpenID, M2 Crypto, that one is a bit dodgy. You might need that one, and you might need suds if you're going to use anything with SOAP. So, and MySQL Python, but that's been handled so far. This is like a list of the most used libraries. They don't include the libraries that are no longer like supported, that do like really, that are only a small amount of people use. This is just like main libraries. So that is an issue. So if you're starting a project and you're going to develop it for like an unlimited amount of time and you don't know which way it's going to go, then I would just do 2. I wouldn't risk it with 3. It's like your choice, but I wouldn't risk it with 3. If you exactly know the boundaries and the libraries that you're going to use for your project, then I would go with 3 because it's a lot better language. It has all the cool things that all the kids like. So I would go with 3 if I knew the boundaries. But if it's going to be like something that I'm going to uncharted territory, I definitely go with 2. So here's a little history on Python. So they started with the first one. It was like 89, it's a long time ago, blah, 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 blah. And the version 3 got released in 2008. So in 2009, version 3.1 got released, which included, I think, async I/O, which is like the main point of Python 3. It completely, you don't need anymore the G events, you don't need any event loops that you previously used. You're going to use the native async IO, which is awesome. And then what happened in July 2010, version 2.7 got released with backports of all the new cool features that were in Python 3 because all the community was using 2. So that's a really, really, really big issue with Python 3. Horrible. So all the future imports that you're getting, those got released in the version 2.7. A lot of you probably already know that. And so 2.7 is like a maintenance version, blah, 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 blah. So the main problem with Python 3 is it's not backwards compatible, which means you're going to need to put a lot of effort into making something that was built in 3 work on 2. So yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big problem because you cannot, if you're developing a library in 3, and there's a community that maybe wants to use it in 2, they're going to have like a really hard time making it work, you know? So it's a big issue for both parties, the ones that are developing in 3 and the ones that are developing in 2. So this is like a quick list of all the incompatible stuff, just like a really small one. There's like tons, you can find it online. But like mainly print and exec functions are actually functions. They're no longer like print and then brackets, whatever. Classes are all new style. You're not inheriting from object anymore. That's obviously an issue, but nothing like replace can fix. Generators are mainly used instead of lists in Python 3, so that's like a really hard thing to backport and analyze and figure out how to return back to 2. So that's an issue. And a lot of standard library changes. So why would you use Python 3 over 2 if you're developing a new project? Because it has proper encoding, because it has that really cool library async IO. For all the static typers out there, we actually have enums now, which is cool. Type hinting, which is a really cool thing for, it's like basically an assert for a function. It's cool. Exception chaining, I didn't even know that about that until like 2 days ago. That's a really cool feature, exception chaining, because you can raise an exception inside an exception, and you can get like a whole stack trace of what actually happens. Mind blown. Single dispatch is also awesome, but yeah, I'm not going to go into that too much. So, in conclusion, I would say that you need to analyze your libraries that you're going to use. You need to do a lot of psychology on the client, so you can figure out which way the product is actually going to go. And basically, that's it. And figure out the whole list of libraries. Which ones are you going to use? Which ones you're not? Which ones are not supported? There's a lot of tools you can use. If you type in pip install, can I use Python 3? And give them your requirements file, it's going to go through all your requirements deep down and tell you which ones actually do support Python 3, which ones don't. Most of them actually do. If you find a library, which happened to me when I was trying to port an application, if you find a library that allegedly doesn't support Python 3, and you go onto their GitHub page, on the master branch, someone probably just hasn't released it yet, but has probably ported it to Python 3. Or maybe there's a fork. If you click on forks, maybe there's a fork that actually works on Python 3 because the original author just like didn't care. So in conclusion, I don't know. Yeah, good luck, literally. Do a lot of psychology on the client. Figure out which way the product is going to go. If it's going to be a straightforward product, if it's going to be something that you know, that you're comfortable with, all the libraries that you're comfortable with, then go with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't risk it. I would just go with 2. Because, yeah, that's it. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, this has like been a really short lecture on basically not that much. This is like an introductory thing. We're gonna, for the next one, we already have some people pipelined who are gonna talk to you about big data stuff, who will talk to you about interesting stuff. This one is all about you guys actually talking between each other and figuring out that the Python community is actually a really big thing. And there's like a lot of you actually.